She was young, beautiful and vivacious, the fifth wife of Henry VIII. But less than 2 years after becoming Queen of England, Catherine Howard met a tragic and bloody end. Was she a vixen, a reckless flirt? Or was she a victim of court politics? Or simply a girl in over her head? This is the story of Catherine Howard, the queen who paid for the ultimate price for love and flirtation. Catherine Howard was born around 1523 into the powerful Howard family, one of England's most prestigious noble houses. Her father, Lord Edmund Howard, was the younger son of the second Duke of Norfolk, but he lacked both wealth and influence. After her mother's early death, Catherine was sent to live in the household of her step-grandmother, the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk. The Duchess ran what was essentially an informal boarding school, preparing girls of noble birth for court life. But life in that household was far from strict. The young women were often left unattended, and the sleeping arrangements were communal. At night, girls and visiting male servants and musicians would sometimes sneak into the dormitories. A culture of whispered conversations, stolen kisses, and flirtation. Catherine, lively and impressionable, became entangled in secret liaisons. Her first known relationship was with her music tutor, Henry Manox, a man who took sexual advantage of his position, although he stopped short of intercourse. He was in his early 20s, she was possibly as young as 12. When the Dowager Duchess found the couple embracing, she struck Catherine, even though she herself had been at fault for failing to guard Catherine's honour as custom dictated. Later, when Catherine was about 14 or 15, she became involved with Francis Dereham, a former secretary to the Dowager Duchess. Their relationship was more intense and was certainly a sexual one, possibly even resembling a betrothal in the eyes of the time. They called each other husband and wife. According to the later testimony of one of Catherine's roommates, there was much, quote, panting and puffing in the communal bedchamber, and they were forever, quote, hanging together by the belly like sparrows. The Duchess turned a blind eye to much of what happened under her roof, until gossip reached her ears. When she discovered the affair with Dereham, she scolded Catherine and she separated them, but no formal punishment followed. These early experiences, shaped in a world with blurred boundaries and little adult guidance, would come back to haunt Catherine in the most fatal of ways. By the late 1530s, King Henry VIII was in turmoil. He had broken from the Catholic Church, executed Anne Boleyn, and lost his third wife, Jane Seymour, in childbirth. His fourth marriage to Anne of Cleves was a political alliance that quickly turned sour. Henry had found Anne unattractive, and the marriage was never consummated. He was humiliated and quickly sought an annulment. Then he met the young Catherine Howard. At just 17, Catherine was serving as a lady-in-waiting to Queen Anne of Cleves. Her beauty and charm captivated the ageing king. In her, Henry saw youth and vitality. And in July 1540, just weeks after annulling his marriage to Anne of Cleves, he married Catherine. He called her his rose without a thorn. As queen, Catherine threw herself into her role. She adopted the motto, "No other will but his." She was generous, popular, and eager to please. Catherine spent little time with her stepchildren, Mary, Elizabeth, and Edward. Her relationship with Mary was strained. Her stepdaughter was, after all, older than she was. Mary was also disrespectful. But her relationship with Elizabeth was far more harmonious. The pair were related through Anne Boleyn, and Catherine gifted jewels to the young girl. Catherine also won favour with Prince Edward. And Henry was besotted with his teenage bride. He was always pawing at her, even in public. The French ambassador was scandalised and reported, quote, "The king is so amorous of her that he cannot treat her well enough and caresses her more than he did the others." Poor Catherine. Henry was nearly 50. He was obese and suffering from a festering leg ulcer. He was in pain, often irritable, and largely immobile. There were also rumours that he was impotent, so there was little prospect of any children. To make matters worse for Catherine, her former flame, Francis Derham, followed her to court, and he kept badgering her for a position. And then, as fate would have it, Catherine also began to receive requests for favours from Thomas Culpeper, a gentleman of the King's Privy Chamber. He was described as a, quote, "a beautiful youth," and it was not long until Catherine and Thomas were engaging in an adulterous affair. During the summer of 1541, Catherine wrote a letter to Culpeper that would later seal her doom. In it she said, "It makes my heart die to think I cannot be always in your company." She signed the letter, "Yours as long as life endures." Was this a love letter? Was their affair one of love, or was it lust or desperation? Whatever the reason, it was treason in the eyes of the crown. Recent scholarship, however, has suggested that rather than written as a lovesick girl filled with sexual desire, this letter may have been a desperate plea from Catherine to appease a persistent, threatening suitor. Culpeper had come to court with rumours of murder and rape surrounding him, so he may have been far more predatory than first assumed. In October of 1541, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Thomas Cranmer, was informed about Catherine's sexual past. Cranmer brought the news to Henry during a church service in the form of a written note. The king was absolutely stunned. He just could not believe it, but he ordered an investigation to find out the truth. Jane Boleyn, Lady Rochford, widow of Anne Boleyn's brother George, was a close attendant of the Queen, and she was interrogated, and she eventually confessed to having facilitated the Queen's meetings with Thomas Culpeper. Derham also confessed to a premarital relationship, and Culpeper himself also confessed. And then on November the 8th, the Queen too broke down, confessing her affair. She said that Francis Derham had used her in such sort as a man doth use his wife many and sundry times. Catherine also admitted to having a sexual encounter with Henry Manox, and later confessed to an affair with Thomas Culpeper. In reporting her testimony to the king, Thomas Cranmer remarked that he had found her in a lamentation and heaviness as I never saw no creature. On the 14th of November, Catherine was moved to the former monastery of Sion, and 8 days later was deprived of her queenship. Thomas Culpeper and Francis Derham were convicted of treason on the 1st of December and executed shortly afterwards. Derham was hanged, drawn, and quartered. Culpeper was beheaded. Catherine and Lady Rochford were condemned under a bill of attainder on the 21st of January 1542. They were condemned to death. On the 10th of February, Catherine was taken by barge to the Tower of London. And 3 days later, at 9 a.m. on the 13th of February, Catherine faced her execution at the Tower. The night before, she had reportedly practiced laying her head on the block. On the scaffold, she asked for God's forgiveness and prayed for the king. Moments later, the axe fell, and she was dead. Catherine Howard may have been as young as 18 when she died. She was just a girl. For centuries, Catherine was remembered as a foolish, frivolous, flirtatious girl, unfit to be queen. But modern historians have re-examined her story. She was a teenager with little education, pushed into the deadliest Tudor court. Her early relationships may now be seen through the lens of grooming and exploitation. Her affair with Culpeper, possibly coercion. Catherine's story is a powerful case study in power imbalance, gender expectation, and the distortion of history. Her story is not just one of scandal, it is one of deep sorrow and cruelty. She deserved so much better. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe for more royal history, and tell me in the comments, was Catherine Howard a vixen or a victim?